Hello, welcome back. So it's come to my attention that I've been calling vlogs wrong. I've been saying vlog. It's supposed to be vlog, right? Am I correct? I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. It's sessions with Utt. So today I want to share with you my experience going to a gambling resort in Ratchaburi, or also you can pronounce it Ratburi province, which is in the western part of Thailand. And I went to this district called Suan. So gambling basically is a luxury form of camping. I don't really go camping that much, and I think it was my first time experiencing gambling. It was pretty cool because everything was pretty much comfortable. But what I want to get at is I had a chance to visit this national park, which is a rehabilitation center for wildlife. Now, before we get there, let me bring you to before I got there. So basically, the representative from the reservations would get in touch with me before actually going on the trip. So she would call and ask what kind of activities I would want to do or I was interested in doing. Basically, I wasn't interested in doing a lot of activities. I just wanted to have like a couple of days off and just read some books and just relax. So one of the activities she kept on mentioning was, would you like to feed the tigers? And I would say no, I don't want to feed the tigers. And there was a reason behind that. And then she would check up on me when it got closer to the actual trip. And she would ask me the same thing. She would try to convince me to feed the tigers. Now, when she was telling me this, like on top of my head, I'm thinking, well, do they have like a separate tiger enclosure? It's like more or less like when you go to the zoo, which I'm totally against because I feel wildlife should be in the wild and not entertainment. But then I didn't have any background on it because she was very vague. So I'm just thinking, okay, well, maybe they have like a tiger enclosure on the grounds, and tigers are there just for maybe entertainment purposes. This is what I thought initially. So as she was telling me this before my trip over and over, I'm just thinking that was the case. So I kept on rejecting it until I actually made it over to the gambling experience. So the gambling place I went to is called the Defender Gambling Experience. Basically, you get to try out their car, their Jeep, and go on this sort of outdoor, outback sort of adventure with the guides there, the representatives. So one of the activities is feeding the tigers. So I found out from the the representative, he was asking me, "Do you want to go?" I was there with a friend of mine, and of course we said no. But then he elaborated. So he elaborated as to what it was all about. Basically, there are tigers at the national park at Khao Son. That's the name of the national park, which is close to the border of Myanmar, but it's on the Thailand side. So they rehabilitate wildlife that has been confiscated, abused, or part of the wildlife trafficking. But all this was not conveyed when the reservations representative, was trying to get me on board to do the activity. So I did convey this and gave advice to the rep on ground that maybe next time, or like just feedback, that the representative should elaborate on what feeding the tigers is all about. If there's an explanation behind it, that there's a whole rehabilitation process. That's why you're feeding the tigers. I think it would change people's view rather than just saying, well, let's go feed the tigers. So we went on I decided to do it because I wanted to find out more about it, find out more about what it was all about. So we went over to the national park, which was about, I think, 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from where we were staying at. And I found out more information as to what they were doing. So during COVID, as you would all know, in the past few years, it's been very difficult for everyone, and especially for the fact that you have to take care of wildlife. Now, wildlife that has been basically they're looking after rehabilitating, they're not able to be released back in the wild. Why? Because there's several reasons. One is they've been domesticated, so they're used to humans. Two, a lot of these subspecies, like Siberian tigers and whatnot, can't be released into the wild to mate with the natives. So because it's just going to be detrimental as well. So there's like so many reasons on top of reasons as to why they need to be cared for. So what they've experienced through COVID is the fact that it takes a lot of money and a lot of food to feed wildlife. But luckily, they do get some help from like big supermarkets like Macro, which is the equivalent like to Costco or um, those big chains overseas like Walmart. What they do is they whatever food is left, they do send it over, but it's still not enough. It's not quite enough. So they are looking for people to be educated about the situation and to help out and to spread the word. So that's why I'm doing this vlog to basically share my experience with it and then uh, share and expand the knowledge of understanding it more in case you out there are able to one day visit the place yourself. They do have a section at Kaohsiung National Park, which is open to the public. That the section that's open is basically they have certain animals that you can visit. It's not because they're doing it as a zoo, it's because the animals are being rehabilitated. As for the tigers, they're like in a separate section, separate enclosure. That section you're not allowed to visit because a lot of the tigers aren't. I mean, even though they've been domesticated, but they're not for show purposes. So they're there to be taken care of, and hopefully they can live the rest of their lives um, in the best scenario they can. So yeah, that's my experience, and I wanted to share that with all of you. And I can go deeper, a little bit deeper into some of like the tigers that they rehabilitate. There was news like years ago. I'm sure many people may have heard about it or read about it, where there's a particular temple in the western part of Thailand that was called like the Tiger Temple. Basically, people were going there to take pictures with tigers, and for some reason people thought tigers at this particular temple were magical because they were somewhat more docile, but that wasn't the case because they were actually sedated or medicated to the point that they were just docile. And that's basically animal abuse right there. So some of the tigers at the rehabilitation at Kaohsiung National Park and are from some of them are from the temple. And another thing above that is it's not actually called the Kaohsiung Wildlife Center. I kind of term it that because it's actually called the Kaohsiung Wildlife Breeding Center. But I did like a YouTube, I did another YouTube content on my visit there, which is on my other channel, which is my full name, Asada Panichkul. But I didn't really elaborate my experience. Basically, it was just me on ground, and I wanted to kind of not allude it as a breeding center because I think it can be misleading. So I just called it the Kaohsiung Wildlife Center. But in actuality, it's called the Kaohsiung Wildlife Breeding Center, which I find is a bit misleading because when I first read it and heard it, I'm like, wait, is this like a place where they're breeding wildlife? That's the first thing that comes to mind, which I think can be misleading. But I think there's obviously a reason why they named it that. I think a lot of times when you translate things from like a foreign language to another language, it's like it's literally translated that way, but it might not have the meaning or the definition behind it that you would want behind it. So if you wanted to look it up or you wanted to Google it and you wanted to visit the center, it's exactly termed as Kaohsiung Wildlife Breeding Center in Rapari or Ratchaburi, Suanpung, the district of Suanpung. So I am very against going to the zoo, visiting animals that are in captive because they shouldn't be in captive. So there's a lot of debate behind that because, these animals, they didn't choose to be in captive. So are we supposed to blame the animals because they need to have livelihood, they need to be taken care of, or do we blame the institution or like um, the the commercial aspect of it? So I feel it's a whole conversation, another conversation that we can go into. But I would love to have this conversation and bounce off of someone else. So I'll keep this as a conversation at a later time in the future where I can find interesting people or friends who would want to join me in this conversation. And, we have different perspectives on it as well. So that's why I wanted to share today my experience going to gambling. I didn't really go into the whole gambling aspect as much as I wanted to really share about this particular place that if you could visit it on your own or spread the word and help out in any way. All right, that's it for me for today. And it looks like it's raining back there. All right, bye.